So we'll try to do it quick. We wanted to to tell you a bit about what most of you missed and quite a few of you have not, which is the Charting Futures workshop that took place yesterday. And the subtitle was Beyond the Timeline. So what we'll do pretty quickly, just share some of the ideas from the workshop and show you a bit of what we've done. So flattening the curve, right? Pretty early in the pandemic, this was the way we visualized this thing that was both too big and too small to understand, and definitely something that was not visible. And it's interesting. The chart was not. It wasn't a new chart. It wasn't made for the pandemic. It's been around in epidemiology for quite a while earlier. It also had this increased healthcare capacity, which is, you know, and none of the later versions of that chart had it. But anyway, the point was there was not there was a call to action showing two possible scenarios. One when the peak is high and it becomes something that the healthcare system cannot meet, and the call to action is that without mitigation we'll be here. We need mitigation to be here, and then it will be kind of better. But I would argue that what we actually looked at was here. We kind of looked at this thing and we said, okay, so it's either this wave or that wave, but after that, it's over. And in a way, it promised, it created hope. It's a very, very simple chart that created hope. It was false hope, but it was hope, and we acted with this hope. So we heard a lot of depressing things in this session, but I'm not completely depressed by COVID-19. I think COVID-19 actually showed us that when we understand and that there is an urgent issue and that there's and where we're pointed at something that we might be able to do to change it, we actually, you know, at least substantially enough, do something about it. So, as we know, more than 2 years later, with no, with partial vaccines and no cure in sight, and another wave, and another wave, and another wave, this was wrong. Like it was not representing what was actually going on, or how is that going to look like. But it did. It promised resilience. This idea that this is going to happen, and then we'll get back to where we were. But actually, what happened was adaptability. We kind of adapted into this pandemic. Now there's this chart, temperature increase prediction, and this one does show, again, different models, different things that could happen. But what is the image of the future from this chart? It's like, choose your apocalypse. Basically saying, if we change everything about our lives right now, we might be able to meet the scenario that is only terribly horrible and not terribly, 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 terribly horrible. And for that, we really need to basically start experiencing this terrible future right now. So, if COVID-19 kind of tricked us from resilience into adaptability, basically saying, hold tight, this would soon be over, what does this say? It promises the apocalypse, saying, we have literally nothing to look forward to. And we need to create things to look forward to. And we need to point at things to look forward to. And that was the main prompt for our workshop. Basically looking at how do we represent these futures. So one way of aggregating this, just to show you the kind of the exercise, would have been sometimes it's one line. Sometimes we actually acknowledge that beyond that line we may be wrong. Maybe it's 2 lines, right? Like we've seen with COVID-19, or more than 1 line. So maybe none of these are exactly certain. And there are the ones who that are not only projecting, but saying, if we do this, we may be getting there. If we do that, we may be getting there. And there is some agency that is visualized in a chart like this. It may not have a line at all. It's just saying, there's a certain cone of possibility, and we don't know, but there are things that we for sure don't know, and things that we think that we do know. And somewhere there are things that we would like to see happen. And sometimes the trajectory is implied. Like, we don't even say anything about the future, but we look at the past and we see a trajectory and we imply a change. And sometimes we would talk about the future in a way that is ungrounded. Like in this case, from illustration for Thomas More's Utopia. And Oscar Wilde famously said that a map of the world that does not include utopia is not worth even glancing at. The visualizations that we present, not only do they not show utopia, they show only apocalypse. So is it, like, what are we supposed to be doing with that? That's what prompted our workshop. And then maybe, Amanda, do you want to join me now? I think this is on as well. So we had, so this was there was a structure going from top to bottom, but just the participants presented themselves through their chosen representations of past, present, and future. And then, do you want to talk about that a bit? Okay, I will. So each group, we broke them to groups, and they've clustered different kind of futures visualizations. So we had like different ways of slicing and dicing them. And then each of we broke into 5 groups, and each of these groups took a cluster and really became the master of the cluster. So, for example, in this case, a cyclical cluster. What does it mean when we represent something that repeats itself, right? In this case, diverging. What does it mean for the line to diverge? And it was interesting to have a conversation between them and the third group that actually chose branching from a different exercise, and we had a conversation about, well, is there a difference between branching and diverging? And it was a nice argument about agency in this sense. Another group about situated experience, like where does it meet people? Like where are the people in the data? And or the data points, what kind of realities, what kind of situations do they represent? And the maps one, like what happens when you try to say something about the future of space and you've already wasted 2 of your most important channels, which are, two spatial dimensions, only to say something about space. You're not left with much to say about, to say other things. Yeah, so that's what we went through. There are some people here in the audience that were part of this workshop. You're welcome to throw a word or 2 before people eat you. And we would love to answer any short question that has to do with what's for lunch.